away we go.
Been here before, Ken. Connor Rosie, can you play him?
We'll get through training and we'll see how everything goes, and we'll make decisions after that. But until clearly this is our main training session today. You'll be here. You'll get a chance to watch and see what he's doing, and it'll give you an indication.
Where's he at?
Well, he's training fully today, so.
What's the balance between, erring on the absolute side of caution after what happened, I guess now, given, on paper it's probably a softer fixture?
Yeah, so they're the conversations that I just don't want to be involved with, because there's no such thing on what the fixture looks like or doesn't look like. The right thing to do is, if Connor's right to play, and we've got a really good, strong history of being able to manage these people really well. Yes, the last one we made a mistake, but that's not going to scare us away from what we should be doing.
He was right last time, so what learnings have you taken from last time to know if he's more right this time?
Well, time on itself is one thing. We've certainly had a lot more time. It'll be 18 days from the time he had his last episode, which was not 6. So there's one adjustment. We've treated it slightly differently. We've been as thorough and as detailed as you would imagine as we could possibly be in making sure that we don't run the risk of Connor re-hurting himself. And the reality of that, as I said last time, whenever you bring someone back from a soft tissue injury, there's always a risk. We have to minimise that amount of risk, and we're trying to do that with everything we can.
Given the issue everyone kind of realised there was an issue when fatigue set in, how do you mimic that game fatigue? So yes, it's that. Yeah, so it's,
if I run you through exactly what that would look like, he's actually going to have done 2 full training sessions from a footy sense. That is different than what he'd done last time. He'd done a lot of training last time. He'd done a lot of running last time. He'd done a lot of kicking last time. But he's actually going to go through uncontrolled drills, and he'll do what he needs to do in those. If he gets through those things, okay. And if we are happy enough with that, we will then allow him to play. If not, we'll make a decision right up until the day that what we need to do is we'll do with the long term in our mind and the short term.
Is it difficult to shut out? I mean, obviously you're going to focus internally, but is it difficult to shut out the perspective or the perceptions of if he played and he did it again, that you'd have to deal with as a club? Like, you have to take some of that into consideration?
Heat. There's heat that in this game every week. There's some sort of different heat. That's all, and that would be that'd be something that you consider, but it's not something that will influence the decision making. We know. Well, as I said, if he doesn't play this week and he plays next week and he does something, is that too soon? Is that too? Everyone's got a question after the event, and the reality is we do everything we can. I've got great faith that we will do the right thing that will get Connor through his next game of football, and many more to come.
On paper, you've named.
Sorry.
Will be a match day decision.
If there's any doubt at all, let me be really sure. So we can move on from Connor. If there is any doubt at all, he won't play. If there is no doubt, he will play.
On paper, you've named.
Play Visentini and Sweet. Are you still playing around with that 2-ruck option?
We'll go through that after we get through training today to see who's available first and foremost, and we'll make all our decisions from there. So it's a really, normally I can stand in front of you and tell you exactly what we may or may not be doing. We've still got our main session to get through.
What's the case for Ruckman? Is there a case for it?
Yeah, we've done it already, so there's a case for it. We think, to be fair to both boys, they've both played well in their last AFL game, so that gives you a strong case.
How was Sweet pulled up after the illness? Has he had any lingering?
No, he's fine. Absolutely fine. He's trained all week, so he's no problems at all.
I was just going to say, does it become a match, now that you've got 3 Ruckman that you trust so much, does it just become almost a match-up thing week to week?
I think, I don't know whether it just becomes a match-up thing, because you can trick yourself sometimes. I think you just got to pick what you think's the right player for the right moment. And, both boys, as I said, this week's decision is really difficult because both boys have played really well if we don't go with both. They've both played their last game really well. So form normally is the first thing you look at, I think. And then, maybe secondly you look at a bit of the matchups. But AFL football, there tends to be a pretty good ruckman on the opposition every week.
Chase Burton was the other one coming in a little, missed last week. What's his chance?
Again, gets through training today, and all right, he'll be available for selection.
How are the boys feeling now, winning at Geelong and facing the Hawks on Sunday? Yeah,
well, they've moved on from Geelong. We've certainly acknowledged it was a big result for us down at Geelong because we hadn't been able to do it for a long period of time. But we've now moved on quickly to make sure we're ready for our next game because, as I say all the time, every week's a tough competition, and you've just got to make sure you're getting ready to play against Hawthorn at Adelaide today, this week.
Is the Geelong one you kind of savour for a little? You know, you say you move on to it, but you savour a little bit. I guess, you know, the record. You know, you're connected to everything, kind of there.
Yeah.
Against the wall, kind of thing. You know?
No, not too much. I mean, we certainly acknowledge that it's a big moment for us because we hadn't been able to do it for a long period of time. But the reality was, by the time you get back on Monday, you're ready to move on, and you know the dangers are coming again. And I say it to you all the time, and everyone says, all the coaches say it to you, it's such a tough competition. You just can't spend any time in the past, and you can't spend any time in the future. You've got to stay here.
Variance on
pretty
Hawthorn.
happy though. Was it a release for you? There's a lot of external. You talk about the hoodoo and all those things, but to do it, did it feel like almost a turning point? Or?
No, it was a really important game for us. I mean, we'd come off a disappointing performance, and you know we've been pretty good as a team more often than not. That if we have played a off game, we've been able to respond, and I thought that was a real challenge for us to be able to get that done down there.
Have you learned something different about how to set up the attack from that game? You did say after the showdown it was something to look at, that it works.
No, I
differently
think
against Geelong.
that if we're playing and moving the ball the way we like to, and we played the way we did in the first half, particularly against Geelong, that's the model we'd like to be able to play with. But everyone would like to be able to play that type of football every week. So most of our stuff is pretty consistent. It's not an adjustment to it from week to week or from month to month. It's pretty much we know what we need to play like and how we play.
Yeah, the Hawks have won the last two. What are you expecting from the game?
Again, really tough game of football. They're they're a different looking team. They're quite different in the front. They're quite small. They've got a lot of small forwards that they play. Haven't got lots of talls. They've got a few disruptions down back. We've got to try and make sure that we're ready to play our brand of football and at our best level.
Does that mean you go smaller anyway in defence?
No, we'll make all those decisions again once we get through today's training and get through tonight's team announcements and stuff. We'll have an idea of what's going on.
How was Charlie after being subbed off?
He's pretty happy. He's glad to sit down and have a chat for an extra 10 minutes. So, I mean, he knows exactly what we're doing and where we're at with, and where that game was at last week. It was, we needed to get a little bit more run out there, and we had a fresh player sitting on the side. So it was an easy enough decision, and we had to make a choice.
Has he
So
changed?
does that give the signal that you're not afraid to sub anyone off, like no one's above that?
Well, we've never been worried about taking the right player out if that's what happens. I mean, ideally, you don't have to sub anyone. You just play with what you've got.
Where are you on that? Do we need the sub, or should we just go to 5 interchange?
Again, not for me. It's not my decision. So what I think
would be easier for you as a coach?
Clearly, as a coach, it's easier to have all your players there ready to use any time you like. But the reality is the decision for the sub when it came in was based around player health, and it came in with the right intentions. It's just a matter of whether we need to free it up or not.
Did you have to chat to Willie again during the week? It was
No.
outstanding, but do you address that again? Or
No, it's okay. He's an emotional player. He plays on the edge a little bit, and he was the first person to acknowledge that at the moment in the game that he got it wrong. He was okay. No one, look, if you can understand how this game is and what it's like to play for the boys, it is not that unusual to sometimes make a small mistake.
How pleasing is it in that moment? Jez is the one to kind of put the arm around him and kind of
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's great. It's great connection. It's great care, and I think Jeremy did a great job of that because he's had his own little challenges recently, and he looked after his mate. They're really close, those two. So it was no surprise to us that Jeremy was trying to tackle Junior.
And you had Zach getting stuck into Guthrie as well. How you must have been really, really pleased that your vice captain in his first time taking the reins was able to step up as a leader on and off the field.
Yeah, he doesn't surprise us week in, week out. He plays at a really high level regardless of what his own role really entails. He just does his job for us, and he's a competitive little fella who likes to make sure he plays close to the line.
Former captain Ollie Wines, I mean, for him to kind of wind back the clock to that Brownlow year with that performance, at that moment.
People want to wind back the clock quick on Ol. I find that quite staggering, to be honest. I thought he's played pretty good footy most of the year. He played a really, really good game, in a good result for us last week. I think that maybe made people recognise Ollie because there's been plenty of talk around plenty of other people in our midfield, and Ollie maybe snuck under the radar. He's had a pretty solid year.
It's a theme round, Ken. How do you build in the whole contribution, the reflection, the appreciation of what First Nations players have done to this club and the game generally.
Yeah, well, it's one that's really close to us, isn't it? I mean, we've got 7, I think, on our list currently, the most of any in the comp, and the boys, I know they love it. I know they love the opportunity, and we certainly love the opportunity to dedicate the round towards them. And this year's a great year for us. 20th anniversary of our 2004 team. Byron, jumper. There's a lot of things that come together. And funnily enough, we play the opposition, whose captain is a former Port Adelaide player himself in Jarman, and it's just a good round to be involved with. I really look forward to Indigenous round every year, and it's one that hopefully we can just get a win.
Have you thought of making like it's a word gesture, like a decision like that, like Hawthorn done with Jarman?
In what way?
Making him captain for the round, you're making.
Yeah, their captain's out. We've got our captain available, we hope, and we're probably not going to let him not be captain if he's playing. And if he wasn't, Zach Zach would step up and be captain again.
Where do you sit on, you talk about your 7 Indigenous players on your list and the highest in the com. The AFL have talked about being alarmed by some of the junior numbers coming through. Where do you think the owner sits to continue?
I think the AFL are doing everything they can to try and make sure that those pathways are open for everyone, not just Indigenous players, but for everyone to be a part of our great competition. And but we're certainly very supportive, and we'd like to see everyone get that opportunity to play Indigenous or not. We just think it's a competition that everyone should be involved with and allowed to play in, and we shouldn't ignore any of it. But if there's some challenges in some of them, we should be really careful that we're not missing out on what those challenges look like.
There's talks of Darwin being the 20th team. What are your thoughts on that?
Got not much time to worry about that, to be honest. I don't really forecast that far ahead for me.
Relief that you're not talking about goal kicking this week.
Yeah, it's nice.
But how frustrating is it that it can just vary from week to week still?
Oh, it's not frustrating. It's the game. It's been played for 150, 60 years, and goal kicking's still been. I watched the game last night. There was incredible goal kicking going last night in really trying conditions, but goal kicking will do that. It'll fluctuate up and down. All you need to do is make sure you're working on what you can control, and we do that really, really well at an enormously high level, and Chad's done a great job.